Well, it's homecoming. Got a lot of people coming back, a lot of reminiscing, a lot of, bringing your kids up, trying to relive some time when you were here before, and hopefully we can give those guys, something to be proud of and something to enjoy. So, just going to forge ahead and keep working.
Do you have any fun homecoming memories?
Let's see. I don't know if that was a homecoming game. I think my last game I played on this field, it wasn't homecoming, I don't believe, but I think Thurman rushed for 300 or right at 300. I don't really remember the homecoming part, but my homecoming was in 05 when I got rehired back here. That was kind of my homecoming. So, but.
Well, now that you've had a little bit of time to absorb things from Saturday, anything changed from when we talked to you after the game?
No, we're just kind of looking forward to getting back in it and see how much improvement we can make at quarterback and get Sam going. And, just overall, don't think that, again, we may have played our best game, and hopefully it'll happen this week. So that's about it.
So you still expect to be going with Sam at quarterback this week?
Uh-huh.
How beneficial can that be for him to have he's had, spots of film, but for him to have a whole game film?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about it and draw, all that stuff, but once you watch yourself do it, it expedites all that stuff. You sit there from all the film angles that we have, you can, maybe it may slow the game down a little bit and see some of the rotations and the coverage stuff and maybe some of the things he should have done with the football where his eyes should have been a couple of times. And, a couple of times when things broke down, maybe there were some other alternatives to what he did, But anytime you watch yourself do it, and a lot of the kids, me included, you can talk about it all day long. Once I see myself doing it, I definitely pay attention a little bit more, and I think that just resonates a lot more once you see yourself doing it. So for him to watch himself in a full game, that's just going to make him better, and hopefully play a little bit more to what he's capable of doing.
Doug, let me throw out the disclaimer. I do not want to get you fined. I don't want you to have to pay a fine with the Big 12. But you probably went back and looked at the tape. My partner in the broadcast booth, who very rarely criticizes officials' calls, thought the Bob Schick holding call was just a little bit sketchy. How are you adapting to talking to the officials before the game, during the game? How's that coming for you?
I think what I've realized is all head coaches are super nice pregame, myself included. Very cordial, don't say much, just kind of a mild-mannered human being, and then something occurs like that and you turn into like this whole other guy that's, and they probably go, wow, that wasn't this guy pregame. I don't know what, So, and I'm not going to comment on it. I just, in my humble opinion, could have gone either way with that one. It looked to me like the guy dove at the ball carrier. And if he had not a dove, I don't know if that would have even been seen as a hold, but that's just the way it goes. That's football. It's like going to your son's Little League game and the dad that's arguing about strikes and balls and stuff. I mean, that's ridiculous. You just move on. It's part of it.
Coach, back to Sam for a minute. He said afterward that some of the people in his circle maybe didn't think that him moving to quarterback was what he needed to do, but he said he was trying to make a mature decision about it. How does that make you feel when he says something?
I just appreciated that he would do that for his teammates, and I know he loves playing quarterback, but I think he feels like moving forward, if he had a chance at the next level, it'd probably be as a return guy or a slot receiver. So he's kind of making a sacrifice as well, He's put a few games on tape, which demonstrates the ability to, to be a slot and a return guy. And I know that, just like all these kids, there's a lot of opinions coming at them, and I just appreciate him doing what we need as a team, and that's what he's doing. He's a good teammate, good kid, and just kind of glad we have him, right now.
So obviously I'm building on kind of that talk about the quarterback position. I know Walters came into the game a little bit. He threw a touchdown pass to Gavin Freeman.
Yeah, how about that guy? Huh? He's hanging out at UCF and he's not even playing ball, and he's probably signed up for the intramural deal, and
Played flag football last year.
yeah, and then he's out here throwing TD passes in P4 games.
How's he been coming along in practice, and have you liked what you've seen from him, and do you think we'll
Yeah.
see more of him throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that kid, he's played a lot of football. He's had a lot of success at a smaller level, and I know he had a little hiatus there away from it. But anytime you play a lot and you're comfortable and confident what you do, you tend to have some success once you get out there. But he's an older guy. He's real calm. He's good in the meetings, and I don't know how they found him, but they did, and I appreciate it. So, yeah, glad to have him.
Do you have any feeling if you're going to get Zane back at some point this year?
Yeah, I think so. I would say there's probably something to be said about him in the next, probably about this time next week, something like that. So we'll see how it goes.
What about Hoss?
Hoss is good. Saw him today. He's walking. So he's walking in a boot. And he kind of was jumping up and down. I was like, oh, whoa, what are you doing? But, with the hardware he has in there, I don't believe he can hurt it anymore. It's already hurt. It's just, they're just waiting on it to fully calcify, and I think it's done that. Now it's just, getting the legs strong enough to be able to move around. So he's come a long way, and we'll see what happens with that,
Doug, you talk about players, encouraging players and pushing them. Can you talk a little bit about the coaching staff, just their professionalism, coaching their hearts out, and not knowing what the future's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, your billboard is what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like the face you put on every day and how you operate in that building in front of the players and your coworkers. I mean, that's what you are. So, I think in this business, it does you no good to go make a bunch of enemies or act a certain way or. My message has been to the team, and it's the same thing with the staff, and they follow through. It's just, man, we got everybody stick together, everybody encourage, and everybody just turn the page and move on to the next thing. And what can we do to get better? What can we do to put a product out there that's going to be satisfactory? And I don't think, it's a small group of coaches. Like I said before, it's 130 D1 schools, thereabout. There's 10 full-time coaches in the whole world. On 130 staff, it's not very many guys. So could you imagine if there's only 1,300 accountants in the whole world? It'd be kind of a scarce job, right? It'd be hard to get. So these jobs are hard to get. We're all lucky to have one of them. And when you get the opportunity, you certainly don't want to let your emotions get the better of you and be that to everybody around you. So.
For you personally, what's that like for you as well? And then do you get advice from friends, colleagues, just about the job you're doing?
Well, I mean, it's different now because like 4 or 5 years ago, we don't have the landscape that's occurring today is not what it was 5 years ago. So it's kind of hard to how would you handle these things? And like I said before, Clint Bowen has done this twice at Kansas. So early on, I leaned on him for information and how he did it and what were some of the problems he had as he moved through it, and how did he handle stuff and what would he had done differently had he had another shot at doing it, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, he's helped me a lot because he's done it twice at his alma mater, which is another layer, to do it here where it probably means the most,
We're seeing 8 schools with openings mid-year. You're a veteran coach. Are you surprised with all the mid-year firings? We had a big one over the weekend. Is that just the new normal now?
It's the new normal. I mean, feels like we're kind of lighting the candle at both ends. I mean, we got to worry about getting players, and you're paying coaches and all that stuff. At some point, it's like, okay, what are we doing? But not really. It's just the way this business is. It's a very public profession. You have to do things. It's a performance industry, and you got to perform. That's just the way it goes.
I always like to ask you about the defense. There's not much mystery. They went and hired, John Haycock's chief assistant, brought him in, and they look a lot like Iowa State on the defensive side.
Yeah, very similar. It's a lot of the same. exact same stuff. It actually looks a little bit more of the pure form of it than what Iowa State's doing at this point. I think Iowa State's had enough time in that scheme to kind of develop some other layers to it. They look a little bit more like when they first kind of started putting it in. It looks a little bit more the original package from 7 or 8 years ago, whenever that kind of started. So
You've been around a long time. Talk about the difficulty of dealing with the robber safety. That's kind of a big.
well, I mean, there's times you got to put it in the equation in terms of the old line play. They have to factor him in and put him in the count and into the point to account for him. Because it looks like a 4 or 5 man box, and it's actually a 6 man box most of the time, him included. So you have to kind of pre-snap that look. He's a little bit lower at times than the other guys, or he's a little bit higher, and kind of, you have to gauge whether or not you want to put him in the equation in terms of who you target. And then that's the center's job primarily. And then you got to find ways to RPO the guy and play action him and stuff like that. So, yeah, it looks like a super light box, but it's really not, And the whole point of it is originally it was, you're sitting there, guys making 9 million tackles. He's not even being factored into the run equation. And he's basically a middle linebacker coming down through there. So, yeah, so it's RPO game, and it's just counting him in the run scheme and play action. That's how you got to do it.
So is that a situation where a guy like Austin Kowecki as your center
Yeah.
has to maybe do a little bit
Yeah, those
extra?
centers, man, there's a lot on them because it's total UFO stuff out there now. It's like show this way, go that way, show a blitz here, bring it the opposite direction to get their point the opposite. And, there's tips, cap safeties or capping nickels or capping people to be able to determine blitz, press corners, wide safeties into the boundary, corner fire, all that stuff factors in, and those guys have a lot on their plate, man. And sometimes they're wrong because they're good on defense at, making you think it's this and it's not. And, back when I played, it was you're a cover 3 team or a cover 2 team. That was kind of it. And if you're a 3 technique, you played the B gap. You didn't. If someone ever twisted when I played, everybody lose their minds. Like, what just happened? So I don't think anybody even actually just charges straight up field and plays gaps anymore. It's all gap exchange, 2 gap, swap, twist. You put your running back over here. They're running games opposite the back because he's typically coming across. And, it's just it's a large amount. I mean, I wish we could kind of call a ceasefire and we could all go home a little earlier during the week. You know what I'm saying? And, we'll calm down if you calm down. We'll slow down if you calm down type thing. But, yeah, it's just the way it is right now. And so you just try to find plays that are kind of all-purpose, best you can.
So building on that conversation about trying to find plays that are all-purpose, obviously last week Shamar Rigby threw that touchdown pass on a trick play to Rodney Fields. Sam Jackson threw off of a trick play. So how have those factored into the equation of reading defenses and kind of trying to get teams on their back foot?
Oh, well, I mean, at the moment, at that time, like the one last week, on that down and distance, we felt like they were fairly calm. We were going to get a split safety look. And we just felt like it was a good time to do it, trying to get that front side safety down. And it's a play I actually ran in the Peach Bowl in 2014 against Ole Miss, exact same play. We hit it for a tug and hit it that day. Now, well, we got lucky last week. They blitzed the corner on that play, which the cornerback's catching and throwing, so the corner was non-factor, but the safety had to cover the single. So when the back took off, there was no coverage available. So we kind of got a little lucky on that, which, I can tell you this, there's been a million plays I've called, and I'm sitting there going, what? And the what? No, oh, touchdown, great. That happens all the time. So that's not an exact science. You got 22 dudes running around out there, and there's been many times you just don't even block the mic backer, and it just goes. It's called players. You've got players, and players make plays, and it's just not always perfect. How many times you see a quarterback drop back and stands there and pass the ball for 8 seconds? It just don't happen anymore. You got to be able to reset your platform and throw the ball and adjust and move around. So, it's a lot.
Going into Cincinnati, it's homecoming week, but how does it feel to be back as an alum?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, and that's the beauty of this college. I mean, majority of the fan base, went here, and it's awesome, to see that. And again, I want to bring up the shirt guy. Anybody get his name? I read it and I forgot.
Eric Bailey. Story today. Eric
Okay,
has the
cool,
whole
yeah.
story. And it's a sister that dared him to do it.
I thought it was his wife, his sister.
Sister.
Okay, and then when I saw some of the replay stuff, I realized that's not college kid, right? Yeah, he had kind of some of the stuff I got going on. So, but it's amazing. I mean, to see that played back, and it's one guy, then it's two, then there was two more show up, and then it just went. That was pretty cool. Probably need to get his number and see if he wants to come out to practice, hang out with us for a day or something, do something. That was awesome.
Talking about all this strategy and stuff, Doug, how much of your job is that stuff? And how much of it is just trying to keep these guys together and encouraged and motivated? We see some teams with an interim coach just keep going south, and UCLA, they're going to do their own.
Yeah, they've done a fabulous job, and the Penn State deal, and didn't they just beat Michigan State too or something? Yeah. So they're doing something right, and or they were doing something wrong before. Yeah, to answer your question, I mean, it's just a kind of a myriad of things, like you say. I mean, you have to pick your times and focus on certain things. Because otherwise you're just running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to just solve everything all at once. But I think that when it comes time to visit with players, then you do that. When it comes time to do X's and O's, and you do that, and you just compartmentalize and try to do the best you can at that moment. Otherwise you can't do everything all at once. So.
Doug, back to Shamar and Rodney for a second. What's been their mindset when you ask them to run plays like that?
Super excited, Who wouldn't want to throw a TD pass? And it was funny because we did a Friday walkthrough, and we ran the play, and somebody tells Shamar to throw it back to the quarterback, which is not an option. And he threw it. Thank goodness we walked through the thing, because we said, son, it's either throw it to that guy or you're running the ball. That's it. And otherwise, he may have thrown it back to the quarterback, and we wouldn't have even known it. So that's the beauty of walkthroughs and practice. You put them out there, you let them practice, and you see what they mess up, and then you can fix it. You know what I mean? Like we did that walkthrough, and we fixed a play that would have never happened maybe if we hadn't had that walkthrough. So, but to answer your question, yeah, those guys, like I said a week or so ago, I mean, wide receiver is a tough gig. You're running 5,000-6,000 yards for a maybe, and guess what receivers think they are every single play? Wide open, and it gets frustrating. So when you have a play where I know I'm getting it and I'm going to throw it, this is going to be awesome, they're always pretty excited about it.
You talked earlier about, I kind of wish we could just come to an agreement. We'll dial back, y'all dial back.
Yeah, can we do that?
Do you think there's some defensive coaches who watch all these weird plays y'all are running?
Yeah, it goes both ways. And it all started kind of it's probably we the ones that started it with all the speed, all the fast one-word plays and all that business. And I think defenses, they've obviously caught up to that because now they have one-word defenses that, you watch some of the film on teams that go fast and you try to figure out defensively, does it simplify them or do they dial up stuff, and it helps determine whether or not to go fast or not. And it's amazing now how many blitzes and packages there are against teams that go really fast. And I think it kind of started there a little bit, and then it just kind of evolved into where we are now. And certainly the Iowa State stuff added a whole nother level of complication, I guess. And all the reason I'm saying is because it's really hard. I just wish it'd be a little easier. It'd be fun. But that's not ever going to happen, probably ever again. So it's the way it goes.
You guys are obviously a little lighter at tight end than you were, but you used a six-man offensive lineman for a little bit.
Yeah, we threw a 79 out there. That was fun.
What stood out about him? Why did he get that opportunity?
Well, it was because if we have one sprained ankles, there's several packages we can't even play, and you're going to waste a lot of practice reps. So if we could put another guy out there and kind of decrease the opportunity of getting one of the tight ends hurt, we're doing it for that reason. Because if you have a two tight end package and you practice it 30 reps that week and one guy sprains an ankle in pregame, then you just waste a lot of time. So I think we're trying to do that to protect those guys.
Do you have to make adjustments with how you practice given the depth at tight end or other positions?
No, you have to make adjustments on personnel and formations and stuff. probably be a little bit lighter with your personnel, not as much of the heavy stuff, just because, if you got a bunch of 2 tight end stuff and one of them gets hurt and you're out of it. And now you didn't practice the other stuff, so you just got to be careful.
What do you think of the way those 2 guys, Quentin and Grayson, have done?
God, just great kids, great attitudes, love them to death. I've never not seen that kid smile. I mean, and he just cracks me up because he just looks like that quintessential like frat kid, just enjoying life every day, loves college, and he's just such a great kid, man. And he's a good player, and he's nicked up a little bit, but he's playing through it, and I think he's getting better as we move forward. But I enjoy coaching and being around that kid. He's great.
So yeah, building on kind of that conversation about the tight ends, how are you trying to get them more involved in the passing attack for this team?
For this team, well, it sometimes the tight end, getting him the ball depends upon, who they have over there defending. If they have more of a coverage guy that's smaller, yeah, you can probably bang some things in there to a tight end. If you have more of a bigger nickel, like some of the nickels we play against are of the 6'2", 220 variety, and then some of them are just extra safety or corners. They're a little bit more of the, the 6 foot 5'11", 190 variety. So usually tight end wise, you feel like there's a mismatch size wise, and a tight end can win with size, because ultimately most tight ends don't win with pure athletic speed and skill. They win with size and ball skills. So if you can create a mismatch there with size, then they're obviously in the equation in terms of catching football a little bit.
Doug, in lieu of the tight end, we're seeing a lot more 20, 21 personnel.
Yeah.
You showed some Saturday. Well, is that the next metamorphosis or cycle? We're going to start seeing more 2-back stuff?
No, I just think it just kind of fits something we saw on tape. And here's how it works with that. You'll watch formation tapes, and then you'll see, there's times like the 2-back stuff, there's not a lot of it, from the prior games. So it's like you don't even really consider it. And all of a sudden, wow, someone lined up in some 2-back stuff, and there's just some really nice stuff out of it. So it just kind of helps you incorporate that into it. It's funny, like,
Copycat.
yeah, it's a copycat. Everybody copies. But you may see an alignment that allows for something you do already. And it's funny, like, everybody, like, I'll watch formations of, the tight end with 3 receivers, which is what everyone does. There'll be 558,000 copies, samples of that. And then 4 wide, there's 10. Whereas, 10 years ago, it was just the opposite. So you want to try to find some of the things that, like the 2-back stuff, that aren't as prevalent, because when you line up in the same personnel grouping every snap, you're trying to get yards right down, smack down the middle of a defensive coordinator's call sheet, because he'll have a million different calls for that. It'd really be fun to kind of see what happens if you just ran 10 personnel, like 4 wide, or 12 and no 11, and see if that gives you an advantage, because everybody runs 11 personnel, like everybody. So it'd be kind of cool to see if that would throw them off a little bit and shrink their call sheet,
You sort of touched on how much is getting thrown at Sam with the move to quarterback, all the extra things he has to think about. Is there anything, especially maybe some of the skill guys, can do to help him out, like just to sort of take a little bit of that burden off him?
Well, I mean, they'll hook up sometimes after practice and get some extra throws in just to see how a guy runs an out route, like stride length and how a guy breaks. It could be the same route, and there's a little bit of difference between guy to guy. So some of that, and really, Sam's got to figure out who's going to be in the right spot and who's going to read the coverage the way he does and get in the right spots, and who can you trust to be in the right location. Like, you're over here and the back's supposed to be here, and you turn, he's not there, or whoever. He lends himself to not throw that guy anymore. So I think just another game of him doing it's going to just help him feel comfortable about who he can trust and who he can't.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, can I get the